Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth is provided by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is TWiT Photo, episode number 36, recorded on December 6, 2011. Matthew Jordan Smith.
This episode of TWiT Photo is brought to you by Ford, featuring available voice-activated sync. Sync gives you versatile access to music, podcasts, and more from just about any device. Check it out in the new 2012 Ford Focus and at Ford.com/technology. And by the Epson Workforce Pro, the world's fastest two-sided printer engineered for productivity. It delivers high-speed, automatic, two-sided color printing, copying, scanning, and faxing to keep your business running at full speed. Plus, you'll save on ink. The Epson Workforce Pro. Check it out at Epson.com. Welcome to TWiT Photo. I'm Iyaz Akhtar, filling in for Leo Laporte, who is off gallivanting in Paris, working at Le Web, actually, where he'll be interviewing like tech luminaries with Sarah and Lane right now. But I'll fill in, and TWiT Photo, if you haven't watched the show before and you're like, hey, who's this guy and what's going on? This show focuses on basically the inspiration of photography, the art of photography. You might get some how-to stuff in here, but you're going to find out how to make some amazing pictures. And thankfully, Catherine Hall is here, who anchors the show every day. Or every week.
Every week, every Tuesday. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on TWiT Photo today. Super excited. First off, I wanted to make an announcement about the Guest Quest, which we've gotten a ton of amazing entries. I'm so blown away by the community and what people have entered into the contest. And do you know about the Guest Quest?
Could you explain? Well, not
I'll give
really.
you a quick little 30-second or 10-second wrap up. It's basically, we have all these enormously prestigious guests on the show, and we figured it would be fun to switch it up and give exposure to someone that has really great work but may not have the name or the following, so we wouldn't necessarily come across them otherwise. So we had emerging photographers. They have professionals 5 years or less, and submit portfolios. And we had our past TWiT Photo judges judge. And we're working on our winner, but there's a lot of great entries. So
the announcement next week of the winner.
Announcement next week, because Leo would actually be really upset with me if I did it without him. So as per Leo's request, we are waiting.
Very cool.
So yeah. So anyway, without further ado, I think I should probably introduce the luminary that's with us today. For those of you that are not familiar, we have Matthew Jordan Smith, and probably most of you out there know who he is because everyone's been begging me to get him on the show.
Even if you don't know who he is, you've seen his work.
That's true. If you don't know who he is, you have definitely seen his work. But I would say he's by far one of our most requested guests, and I'm actually glad to have him on the show, so that I don't have to get the sloth of emails saying Matthew Jordan Smith, and me saying I'm working on it. He was hard to get. Anyway, super stoked to have him today. He's known for his beauty work. He's done Tyra Banks. He's photographed Tyra Banks, Halle Berry, just a ton of celebrities, Britney Spears, the list goes on, Oprah as a big one. And his work is beautiful. It's sensual, but not sexual, as you would say. And he's just he's a legend. So it's a very big honor to have you here today with us.
It's great being here. It's great being here. And thank you for having me on the show.
And I'm excited to see that we're actually seeing inside your home.
Yes, indeed.
You're not on set. So that's exciting too.
Well, office home, so.
Office home. But it's still part of your home, correct?
Absolutely.
In Los Angeles.
Definitely.
So Matthew actually got hooked on photography at a very early age. And it started with his sisters outside of his bathroom begging to get inside, and him saying, 2 more minutes, 2 more minutes, 2 more minutes. Please explain.
Oh, wow. You found it. You dug deep. Yeah. Well,
I am a digger.
That's funny. I forgot about that. And my sisters always often remind me that when I go home and visit them. They live in the South now. They're in Columbia, South Carolina, where my entire family is. But we grew up in New York, and my dad got me into photography. And I was always taking his camera and borrowing it and trying to put it back before he knew it. So one day he came to me and said, "This camera is for you, so you can leave my camera alone." But he went much further than that. He took the camera and taught me how to use it. And then my very first pictures, he turned the second bathroom, the kids' bathroom, into a makeshift darkroom. And I processed my first pictures right there. I took my first pictures and processed them, and it was amazing. I think I've been hooked ever since.
So what about it was, so you're 12, right? You said?
I'm 12 at the time, yeah.
So you're 12 years old, and you're magically watching. For any of us film shooters, we know that experience. Have you ever done anything in a dark room?
Dark room stuff. I've had some experience with that. More about these fumes smell bad. I have to go.
Well, yeah, you get used to that. You get high. No,
You really do.
That experience of seeing, the paper and just watching it change and seeing the image come about. So tell me about this. So you're in this bathroom, you see the image come out, you're hooked. So you're 12, though.
Ever since.
So where do you take it from a 12-year-old's standpoint?
As a kid, I was kind of shy, believe it or not, and maybe I still am. Who knows? But it was a way for me to communicate how I felt about the world. I'd shoot pictures of my friends, sports, girls who I had crushes on, but I was too shy to say something to them. It was an extension of me. And still is to this day. It's an extension of my personality and my view on the world, my view on women, relationships, advertising, travel. It's me putting my stamp out there with my photography.
So you think women are beautiful then?
Oh, absolutely.
Quite evident. So you were shy as a kid. How did you? I mean, now you're photographing Oprah. I mean, come on. How do you get over that shyness?
I guess you just get comfortable in your skin, and as a photographer, you're evolving. We're all evolving all the time, and when you have this great gadget, this great camera in your hand, and you can tell your story and how you feel about the world through your photography, it helps you break out of that shell, and that's kind of what happened with me.
Did you try anything else outside of photography to break out of that shell? I mean, it's one thing taking a bunch of pictures of people and talking to them and getting to know your subject, but did you find anything else helped you when you were trying to be less shy?
Oh, yeah. I played sports as well, and that was a big help for sure. But it was a different experience having the visual element of photography. People knew me for being a photographer more than being an athlete.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I can see how that happens.
Sad to say, but...
But going on that, I sometimes see, as the shyness, I see that typically people that are shy they're observers. And so there's definitely a huge advantage to that when it comes to photography. So I was actually really shy as a kid.
Really?
So I definitely see that that's played a role. Now I've gotten over it, but I still am shy. Like you said, like I have my moments.
So that's all three of us.
I get embarrassed.
I used to be a shy kid too.
I know. Yeah, right. Both you guys. I can't believe it.
No. I was really shy, especially around guys I liked.
I was a converted introvert. When I took those old tests, what kind of personality you were, I was an introvert. If you
were an
believe
introvert?
That. Yeah, I was a quiet guy. I used to do comic book sketches. I used to draw a lot of things. That's how I learned about framing anything. Like even when I take little photos, and I don't have any professional equipment myself like you guys. But I'll frame everything with with the crappiest camera on earth. I'll follow rule of thirds or try to figure out different compositions because I used to stare at everything.
Well, speaking of that, rule of thirds, Matthew, tell me about so you were not educated in photography, but you weren't educated in art. So you grow up, you have this camera, it's time to go to school. What do you do?
I went to art school in Atlanta and majored in photography, and it was the foundation for me. Starting with going to art school at the Art Institute was essential, and learning the rules. And then I left and went back to New York and started working as a photo assistant. And when I got to New York, it's a different situation. And here it's not this theory. I'm thrown into the jungle, and I'm in it. And it was the best real experience I ever had in my life in terms of learning the business, because I'm working as a photo assistant to the best photographers in the world, doing advertising and fashion, and you're under the pressure, and it was just intense, but it was great at the same time. I loved it.
So you did an apprenticeship under Neil Barr, right? Correct?
Ah, I did. He was one of the photographers I worked for, absolutely.
Yeah, so he was one of, would you say, the most influential photographers that you worked for during that era?
One of for sure. Neil Barr used to assist Irving Penn, and he was a master at lighting. And I think that time working for Neil really helped me learn how to see light for the first time. And it's had a big impact on my career for sure, even today. I'm a big advocate of testing light, and I learned all that working for Neil Barr. It was a great experience.
That's actually one of the questions that we get, you know, in Google Plus. Somebody says in caps, how do we see the light? Because everyone says, see the light, see the light, see the light. And I'm not asking, I mean, I'm granted you could do a 3-day workshop on this, but, you know, if you were to sum it up, how does one see the light?
Learn to be aware of light in every which way, not just when you're taking pictures, but in your daily life. My friends and my girlfriend, everybody picks at me because I'm always talking about the light all the time. When it's approaching that sweet time of the day where it's maybe like an hour before sunset, I'm keenly aware of light. But also those little nuances of shadow and light, I'm looking for that as well. And I definitely learned that working with Neil, because when I first started assisting Neil, I couldn't really see the light, the small nuances in light. And as I worked with him more and more and more, I started seeing more, and it really opened my eyes. How you develop your eye where you can see those nuances is just really practicing every day. When you're not taking pictures, when you're in your car driving, when you're going for a drink, and just looking for those small things that people don't see, those little small nuances in light. A light that goes on or goes off, a shadow, where the light's coming from. Just being aware of light in every situation.
So do you have any exercises? Because that's, I think, feels kind of like, it's easy to say that, but then people say, well, how do I practice seeing light in everyday world? What's something what's an assignment our listeners could do to learn how to see light in everyday life? I'm putting you on the spot.
No, that's good, actually. I have so many tests that I have my interns do all the time. And it's wonderful to see them have their light bulb turned on. And one of the things I have them doing is testing my lights. I had them do these little tests where I had them shoot with a beauty dish or an umbrella, and go through shooting all the different lighting tools. One's an umbrella, one's a beauty dish, one's a magnum reflector. And they shoot them all, and then they look on the computer and see them all lined up together in Lightroom, where they can see the difference and start seeing those small nuances in light and how every reflector changes. I'm a big advocate of using one light. And I'll have my interns go through this test of doing different ways of shooting with one light. And if you do that all day long, you start seeing things you didn't see before. It's a wonderful thing. Also, I love movies, so I'm always looking at movies. I'm looking not only for the story, but I'm looking at how they light the movie and how they make the choices in light and how it changes from room to room. I look for that all the time.
Yeah, movies are great for that. I just saw, have you guys seen The Immortals? I know it has mixed reviews.
I've yet to see that.
I know it has mixed reviews, and you're shaking your head, but the visual, just for the visual aspect of it, it was just amazing. The lighting, the texture, the depth, the colors, the costume, just visually, it was just really, really, it's like Gattaca, one of those things that you watch just for that experience.
So in the case you're stuck watching a movie that's less than great on plot, start focusing on the lighting.
The lighting.
Yeah.
That's the one way to save a bad movie, I've always found.
Oh, so you do that?
I watch some horrible movies, so I end up looking at composition and I start paying attention to everything but the plot, because sometimes they're just really bad.
Yeah, so...
I'm a movie fanatic, so I do the same thing.
What's a good movie for people to watch for lighting? Do you have one offhand that you can think of, Matthew?
Oh, wow. For lighting, oh my God, there's something that I love. I think probably going back, one of my favorite movies for lighting, I think that would be wonderful for everybody is Cinema Paradiso. It's an old movie. Cinema Paradiso is a fantastic movie in so many ways. But lighting, photography, the story, that's one, I guess, my favorite movie in terms of seeing photography, seeing light, seeing a story, and putting it all together. Cinema Paradiso.
Very cool. So you're one of every single beauty celebrity photographer we have on. They all rave about the beauty dish. That's the most popular modifier. So what is so awesome about the beauty dish? And if people want to play with it, where do you start?
Well, it's funny because people often ask me about the beauty dish a lot, and it's not just about a beauty dish, because there are 1,000 ways to shoot this beauty dish. So it takes going in and testing and finding what's really yours. At one point, a photographer, I know at one point when I was assisting, a photographer was using a softbox, and I'm not really an advocate of the softbox. It's like it's too soft to me, and I started playing around with lights, and I fell in love a long time ago with the beauty dish, and I still love it. I use it all the time. I used it yesterday. I also use the hot light. I use the Magnum. It just depends. You can't use it for everything, but you find through testing your light what works the best for what situation. With the beauty dish, I can shoot it for white beauty dish, a silver beauty dish, with the grid, with a sock over the grid. Those are just 4 ways off the top of my head they can use it. But the distance and the height make a big difference as well. And that's probably more important than just getting a beauty dish by itself and putting it on the stand and shooting it and say, oh, I have a great shot. It's testing to find out exactly what you want and exactly what you like. And part of my testing I do is going through and testing the light at 6 feet, at 8 feet, at 10 feet, and also testing the distance as well. And you'll see when you do a test and put it in Lightroom, and you see 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, and the height, and then you see the distance also, you have 3 very different looks. And then you find your own vision that you love light-wise, and you're good to go.
So how often are you using natural versus artificial light?
Well, now that I live in L.A., I use natural quite a bit. In New York,
oh, you
wasn't
do?
quite
You
that
actually
much.
do
Yeah.
use natural? In what cases are you using natural? I mean, shooting outdoors, but indoors, are you using natural light as well?
Well, here's a good example. Yesterday's shoot, we're shooting in the studio. At the end of the day, I had one more shot to do, and I took the model outside to get the last bit of that beautiful sunlight. Because really, what I'm doing is I'm trying to imitate the sunlight anyway. So when the sun came down to that beautiful time of the day where it was just this beautiful golden light at the angle that I'm trying to get my lights in the studio to look like, I ran outside and shot the model outside because that was the light, and I can't imitate the sun that's perfect like that.
Yeah. So working with these celebrities, I mean, this is kind of a silly question, but how are you not intimidated?
Oh, it's funny, you know, with celebrities, I think when you're looking from the outside, it probably looks very different than being a part of it. And I consider myself and my team part of the magic team. We create this illusion. If you take anybody and give them 2 hours of hair, makeup, the best clothing, best styling, great light, you can make them look like a star. So people walk in looking like a regular person, and we transform them into this, you know, the image that everybody sees. And yes, they are very talented sometimes, great actors or personalities like Oprah. And at first you might be maybe intimidated by being around that, but the more you're around it, it becomes second nature.
Let's take this moment to thank a sponsor. I want to ask more about Oprah a little bit because I know there's.
You're not going to get off the hook with Oprah.
We're going to. She's only the most powerful person in the universe. Let's thank Ford first. This episode of TWiT Photo is brought to you by Ford, featuring available Sync. Sync's entertainment features enable you to access music and podcasts from most devices, including iPods, mobile phones, tablets, flash drives, even like a little USB one. And with Sync with My Ford Touch, you can play videos or display photos from your digital cameras or portable game device while your vehicle's in park. Gotta stay safe. It's all made possible through a versatile media hub, which supports a convenient variety of devices for your music and entertainment, such as wired connections from just about any device through USB ports, SD slots, and RCA jacks, or wireless via Bluetooth. Just connect your devices and play. Once your device is connected, you can use Sync's voice activation feature to play what you want. Here's just a few examples. Let's say you want to have a genre, play genre rock. You want to listen to the Beatles, play Beatles. Or if you want to listen to a track, play track, I don't know, Helter Skelter, let's say, because you're having a bad day. Also available is Sync with My 4Touch HD Radio. This features iTunes tagging, which lets you tag a song you like on the radio, transfer the information to your iPod, and purchase the song directly from iTunes at a later time. Sync's versatile entertainment features are available in the 2012 Ford Focus. You can learn more about this and other technologies Ford is bringing to its vehicles at Ford.com/technology. We thank Ford for their support of TWiT Photo. So, back to Oprah, because let's face it, if Oprah mentioned your name once on air, let's say she mentioned one of your many books, Matthew, like I would imagine they would just skyrocket to the top of almost any bestseller list.
That's very true.
How do you deal with that kind of, I don't know, what you even call that, charisma, that aura that is Oprah? Or belongs to Oprah?
Well, it's funny. I think out of all the celebrities I've worked with, she is the one that has that special magic touch. And it's hard to describe what that is, but she's the only celebrity I've been around where I've watched other celebrities become nervous. She has this wonderful quality for making everybody in the room feel comfortable. There are a few people I've shot where at the end of the day, when the shoot's done and we're wrapping, when they'll walk over and say thank you to everybody in the room. Oprah does that. She's probably the only one I've worked with who does that. She'll walk around to everybody, the assistants, interns, you name it, and say thank you for the day. And that's a wonderful quality that she has. And it's not fake. It's got to be real. And it's very real with her.
Do you find that genuineness helps you shoot them a lot easier? I mean, if somebody's being like, I don't know, an absolute diva or angry gentleman,
absolutely.
Is it a lot easier to get the good photograph out of this person because you like them more? Or I mean, is it hard to get?
Absolutely. I mean, there are people you have to shoot that you may not like. It's a business. But you've got to work harder to get past your feelings on photographing that person and get a great shot. Of course, when you have somebody who's wonderful and easy to work with and personable and Oprah, it's easy, yeah.
How much time did you have with Oprah? I mean, on typical shoots.
I never have a lot of time. It's probably, the first time I shot her, I probably had her all day long.
Oh, really? That's incredibly rare.
That's very, very rare. These days, it's 15 minutes. So the last maybe 3 times I shot her, I probably had her for like 15 to 30 minutes. The very first time I shot her, I had her all day long. That doesn't happen anymore. But the first time I shot her was back in the early 90s. Now it's 15 minutes, and now she's so good in front of the camera, you can get great shots in 15 minutes.
So what if they're not great in front of the camera? I mean, granted, most celebrities are used to it, but say you have a subject, whether it's celebrity or not, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a CEO or like someone important. You have 15 minutes with them. Maybe it's a kid that's about to lose it. How do you get that shot in 15 minutes?
Get their mind off of taking a picture. It's the same way. Whether I'm shooting Oprah or whether I'm shooting, somebody who's brand new to being in front of the camera, a brand new model or a CEO, I try to get them off thinking about taking a picture, thinking about posing and doing all this, because that's uncomfortable. So my whole thing is to get to the person. So for the moment I enter the room or they enter the room, it's about connecting with that person one-on-one. Forget if they're a CEO or Oprah or whoever, it's about that connection. So I'll talk about holidays or travel, things that I love, and find that connection that they love as well. Once I find that connection, then I've got them. You make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. I found some of my favorite photographs have come when the model, I've beat the model down. And when I mean...
Wait, what? Define that, beat the model down.
You know what? You know what Tamara Lackey said on the show? That was hilarious. She said she used some word about kids, like she beat them haggard or something like that. And I was like, oh, so you beat kids haggard. So he's good friends with Tamara. But anyway, point of the story being that it's true. Like once there is that sort of awareness, and that's usually what keeps you from getting something that's real and raw and different. And once they let that veil down, once they stop caring, that's when the magic happens.
That's true. That's very true.
So how do you accelerate that?
Oh, wow. I have a lot of different tricks and things. I think it's making the room feel comfortable. When they enter the space, I want them to feel at home. So I have flowers waiting for them in the dressing room or the hair and makeup room. So when they first walk in, there's a note saying, "Here's to a great shoot." It's the holiday season now, so I give, as a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm blogging about gifts because I'm going through today and finding gifts for my clients. So I found all the gifts that I want to give to my clients this year, and I'm going to blog about that tomorrow. But it's making sure that I make them feel at home and keep that connection going. So if I go on holiday, if I go away to Iceland or India, when I'm there, I'm sending postcards to my clients saying, "Oh, here's a great spot, you know, for a future shoot. Or this is a great location," and thinking about our last shoot, just keeping that relationship going, making them feel comfortable when I'm shooting them and long after the shoot, just keeping that connection going.
So who are your clients typically? Are they often publications, people, mixture?
They're the range. They're the mixture of advertising clients, beauty and cosmetic clients, and celebrity. That's my client range.
Well, how do you handle when you're taking lots of different photos of people and maybe you get like their guard down, you have a great image of them. How do you handle it when your client says, "We're not going to use that image," even though you think it's the best one? How do you put away your own ego with that?
Well, that's always the case. The client hardly ever picks what you like. And the reason for that is, say I'm hired by an ad agency to shoot an ad for Farmers Insurance, which I just shot. So the client has their brand, and the images that they pick fit into their brand. That brand may be 200 years old, so looking for that certain image that has that same feeling. My brand may be very different, so the client might use a shot for their brand that fits them. And in my website, my portfolio, I use a picture that fits my brand. And they're usually very, very different, but that's the reality of business.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what is beauty photography?
Beauty photography revolves around the skin and hair. Skincare, hair care, Revlon, Pantene, L'Oreal, all those clients. It's a very lucrative market. It's a world that I love working in. I think the first images that I shot in the fashion world were beauty images, and I fell in love with that world where I'm working very close. You know, I'm using my 100 macro or 85, and I'm very close, working very tight in here, and I love being in that space. It's a great thing. It's very intimate. It's very cozy. And it's timeless. You know, with fashion is changing all the time. But with beauty, it's a different thing. If I shoot a cosmetic ad, it might be out there for 10 years or 5 years. It has a longer life.
So speaking of beauty, I would imagine I hear that retouching skin, because I mean, I retouch, but not to the level that I'm sure, I mean, I know people could spend 7 hours on one photo.
Easily.
Retouching skin.
Easily.
Professionally, a retoucher. So that begs the question, do you ever retouch your own work? How much do you outsource? And tips on retouching skin?
Do I ever retouch my own work? No, not at all. I'm a photographer, not a retoucher, and I love taking the picture. They're a high-end retoucher. All they do is retouch all day, all night, and that's a skill. And usually the best retouchers are great artists as well. So I look for the best artists to be as my retouchers. And I've had the same retoucher for over a decade. So she knows what I like. She knows the feeling of the work. She has the right hand for retouching skin. And that's a gift. I have a different retoucher for skin and a different retoucher for hair because they're very different disciplines altogether.
So it's crazy, the advancements of it. I'm kind of jealous because I retouch all my own work. And the idea of being able to shoot it and just sort of hand it off and know that your vision's going to be sort of withheld. So my question to you is, for photographers that are just emerging that may not have the workflow to have like a full staff, like you probably have, do you staff the retouchers? Are they freelancers? How does that working relationship happen?
They're freelancers. They're freelancers. The whole industry is filled with freelancers for sure. But even when I started off, you know, when I was working as a photo assistant, I still didn't have time or the skill to retouch my own work. I want to be hired for putting the best work out there. And if that means investing my income in having better work by having the best retouchers, I want to use that. Because when people look at your work, they're never looking at just your work, looking at you and 100 other people. So if they're looking at, you know, your work and it's flawed because you're doing your own retouching compared to a high-end retoucher, you won't get the job. I want to get the job. So I'll spend that money to get a better return on my investment.
So I have a quote from you, Matthew. The best photographs come when the photographer and subject blend their creative imagination into one. When this happens, it's magic, and I love creating magic. Can you please kind of explain that, since we have you here?
All right, that's very easy. I love having personal projects. For me, it feeds my soul. Doing jobs are all great, and it's wonderful to get a big payday on a job, but it's my personal projects that keep me alive and loving photography. And on those projects, it's usually not just me pushing my vision, it's my team. And that team is my hair person, makeup person, assistants, interns, and we're all working together as a cohesive unit to make it all work. And when you have that right team together, it's really magic, because you have an idea. I'll get the idea and I'll have it sketched out and I'll present to my team, and together we make it work. I did this story on a butterfly that was inspired by something that happened to me. And I told my team about it. We came together and we got the right model, the right hair, makeup, and we made these beautiful images. And it's because of the team. If I had gone in there with my own vision saying I want it this way, this way, and this way, it would not be as strong as it is. And it's strong because my team helped me bring the images together, and the magic just happened. Yeah. And that's all my personal projects.
And that goes back to what you were saying in the beginning about shooting, you know, they come in transformed, and how important hair and makeup is. And it was interesting to me because I did the shoot with Sue Bryce. She was a previous TWiT photo guest, and we did a shoot together. And it was like, I felt like it was half her and then half hair and makeup. And it's fascinating because people look at the image, you know, a lot of her images, and say, oh, they're so retouched. And I'm like, no, they're not. But people do get transformed, you know, by these hair and makeup, by this team that's put together. You obviously, at this level in your career, it's easier for you to attract good teams because you have this amazing portfolio, and people, you don't have to prove yourself to create a collaborative work or effort. So what about people that are just getting started? What are tips for them creating a team?
Well, you know, when I first started off, it was not easy getting a team together. Today's a different story. People often ask me about the one model site, Model Mayhem. And I'll talk more about that later on, but people are also like, oh, why are you on this site? And, you know, you're professional and you shouldn't be on the site. But my feeling about that is I'm always looking for new talent. I'm looking for new talent for stylists, for hair, for makeup, for models. Now, there's a lot of people on there who should not be models on sites like that. So out of, say, 10,000 people or more, there's maybe like this 2% that are quite amazing. And I look for that 2%. I discovered Tyra before she was big. I shot Heidi Klum before she was big. So I love finding those diamonds, those gems. And I find them in all different places. I can find them, you know, walking down the street in New York City, or be on the subway in New York, or being on a site like Model Mayhem. And I'll find those little gems. And they're hard to find, but they're there.
How do you know?
When you're just starting.
How do you know? Go ahead. What's the defining fact? How do you know when it's a gem? Other than it being intuitive, sort of like.
Well, you first have that feeling that you might have found somebody who's amazing, but that's just the idea. I'll go through and I'll test people all the time who are brand new. And sometimes I'm off, sometimes I'm on. It just depends. It takes that time. When I'm first starting out trying to find my team, hair and makeup, I'll probably go through 15 different makeup artists and do one shoot with them, a personal project with them, and see how they work, if they fit with my team. If they don't, I won't use them again. If they do, they're part of my team.
So
that's how it works.
Yeah, so the message is, it's almost like hiring someone in a sense. I mean, you are hiring someone, but it's almost like
Absolutely.
a company hiring a new employee, doing the extra homework beforehand.
It's the
maybe
same
tedious
thing.
and a lot of work and etc. But then once they're in, it's better to get out in the beginning and then have suffer later.
Considering the photographers are a bit shy in general, what if you don't have the available skills to put together a team? What do you suggest for a single photographer? One guy is going out there like, okay, I kind of want to learn this. I want to take a picture of my friend. Okay, maybe I'll talk to them about being the subject. But what do you do when you can't put together that team right away? I mean, what advice do you have for somebody who's just a solo shooter?
That was me also in the very beginning. If you're by yourself and you don't have a team together, you go out and you still shoot. The important thing is for you to get your vision out there. And if you're just going out there and winging it, it's harder to get a team together. If you're going through the steps of going through and writing down your ideas, sketching them out, pulling tear sheets out of magazines, and having visuals so you can tell people your idea, it gets them excited about your shoot and what you want to do. I think it's very important to have some type of plan when you shoot. Whether it's a big shoot or a small shoot or it's your first shoot, have a plan and then go out and shoot. And the more you do it, the better you get. If you're in a small town and there aren't hair and makeup people around, go to your local mall and find somebody at the makeup counter who's probably looking to have their pictures or have their work in pictures, and do a trade where you give them pictures for their time to work on doing hair and makeup for your shoots. That hair and makeup part is so important to a photo shoot because it makes people feel good about themselves. And when they feel good, you get better pictures, period.
Well, let's thank our second sponsor right now, because once you take these photos, you probably want to print them out on something. And so that's why this sponsor is really helpful. This episode of TWiT Photo is brought to you by Epson Workforce, the Epson Workforce Pro, the world's fastest two-sided inkjet printer. Epson has engineered the Workforce Pro for productivity. It delivers high-speed, automatic, two-sided color printing, copying, scanning, and faxing, all to keep your business running at full speed. And Epson has designed the Workforce Pro to save on ink. Now, these ink cartridges have extra high capacity, and it gives you 50% less cost per page versus color laser printers. The Workforce Pro prints for mobile devices like smartphones and tablets, fast and easy if you use a mobile app. Plus, it's got a 580-sheet paper capacity tray, which means you don't have to load this thing as often with paper. That's the Epson Workforce Pro. Check it out at Epson.com. Epson, built to perform.
So Epson, let's talk about Epson, because your love of, I think you love them as much as I do.
I do. I have my big 9900 right beside me, as a matter of fact, right now.
You have the 99. I only have the 79, and I wished I had the 99. So tell me about printing and why it's so important to you.
Well, you know, we live in this world now where everything's online, but there are times when I have to have a meeting and I have to go in and meet a client, and having something tangible that they can hold in their hands is still very impressive. It's hard to tell quality online through looking at a portfolio or a website. You can't tell quality. You can see a picture, but you can't tell really the quality. When I have a meeting and I show my work and they can actually hold the prints, that blows them away. And my printer, my Epson 9900, I'm printing all the time for my shows, for my portfolio, for presentations. It saves my life.
So why Epson?
It's the best. It's the best. You know, you try everything. I play around with different cameras, different printers. You find what works. And in this industry, I want to use what works and gets me there without fussing and fighting and playing around and running out of ink. And I love my Epson.
I know. I was actually surprised. I have to admit, I was scared about printing my own work because I thought.
Why is that?
Well, because I thought it would be really hard. I actually tried to do it 10 years ago, and it was very difficult at that time, or like 15 years ago. I was scared it would be really hard, and I just thought the colors wouldn't come out right, and that it was going to be just very tedious. And my first printer was the 3800 Epson.
Oh, wow.
And the first where I started really printing workflow on that. And I had it in the box for a month sitting in my studio before I opened it because I was scared.
I can relate to that.
And I can't even tell you the thing that, and the reason I want to talk about this, because I think for our viewers, like, because I'm sure people feel the same way I felt. I opened it up and I printed, and the first freaking print looked amazing that came out of that thing. And now I've been absolutely hooked since. And I think it goes back to that feeling when you're 12 years old and you're watching the image come up. Printing your own work gives you this thrill that is unattainable by any other way. It's just part of that final step of creating in photography and seeing it come out and like having it instantly.
I'm glad that they're much faster now. I remember printing old stuff and you're just like, you go line by line and you're like, is it good? It's still good. Good?
Yeah.
Well.
Good. Okay, just another layer. It's good. They're faster now.
And it's fun to play with the papers too. So anyway.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So moving on, I think we should go into our tips. So starting off with, sorry, I'm not prepared. Shoot like it's film. Elaborate, please.
Yeah. For I think that what I see now happening is that people feel like they can shoot 1 million pictures, and you can shoot 1,000 frames a second almost, and you can just get all these great shots really fast. But that doesn't mean you're getting better shots. I think when I was taking my time in shooting film, I was looking at each frame as being precious. You know, say if you're shooting a roll of 36, I'd make sure that each frame was precious and a great shot. And now people can shoot, you know, a zillion frames, so they're kind of haphazard about what they shoot. Take your time and shoot each picture as if you're shooting film, and getting that one shot, making sure that you compose everything just perfectly, the rule of thirds, and making sure that everything inside your frame is exactly what you want. If it's not there, take your time and recompose. And don't just say, oh, I'm going to get a shot here and get a shot there. Take your time and make it special. If you look at the work of Ansel Adams, who was shooting at the time, you know, 4x5 and 8x10, he'd wait all day to get one frame, and it's timelessly beautiful.
All right, perfect. Next one is try to shoot at your camera's native ISO.
Yes. Every camera manufacturer has their own ISO, and if you're coming from shooting film, the lower the ISO, the better the film would be, the better quality you get. Like, you know, if it's 100 or 50 or whatever it was, the lower the better. And as we went to digital, that changed. So now each camera has their native ISO. I use the Sony A900. And the native ISO for that camera is ISO 200. For another manufacturer, it's 160. For another one, it's 200 as well. But when you find your images will be sharper, better, you get better files, giving you better pictures, use the native ISO of your camera manufacturer.
Okay, and tip 3, move in close.
Yes, this is a big one, because as I go, you know, anywhere, if I'm walking and seeing tourists on the street, or even seeing some of my friends shooting, people tend to shoot far away. So instead of being 1,000 miles away shooting, move in close and get that shot. You'll get better shots all the time. Take the picture by moving in close. At times, I'll shoot far away, then come in 3/4, and then come in closer. And I have those options. But the shots that are stronger are when you're closer. So move in close, get closer to your subjects, and get better shots.
Awesome. And then we have some favorite gear items. You have 2 lenses you want to tell us about. Let's start with that.
Oh yeah. I have a lot of favorite toys. My favorite 2 lenses, the lenses I use the most probably on every shoot, is my 100 macro, which I used yesterday, and my 85. This is all on the Sony A900, and it's the Sony 100 macro lens, which I'm using really tight for my cosmetic work, my hair care, skin care. And then for my portraits, I love that 85 Carl Zeiss lens on that Sony A900. It's fantastic. It's so sharp. And I can't live without those lenses. It's it for me. I love that. I have every lens under the sun, but I tend to use those too. And my assistants always say, "Oh, are you going to use all these lenses today? Or are you going to put them all out?" I'm like, "Yeah, put them all out there." But I'll end up using those 2 lenses most of the time.
So I have a question with you, and in regards to millimeter settings. So we have all these different photographers, different approaches, and we have a ton of fashion photographers that say 200 millimeter, like they never move off that 200 millimeter mark. And then we have people like Sue Bryce, a beauty photographer, who stays at 50, which I think's pretty low. I usually settle around 85. Why 85?
The 85 is a wonderful lens for doing portraits. The 50 gives me a little distortion, which I don't like. It's not a big distortion. It's still acceptable, but if I'm shooting somebody, say like Oprah, and I'm doing a portrait of them, and I take a picture of the 50 and then the 85 is much more pleasing, and she looks slimmer, more attractive with the 85 than the 50. And if you're at home and you have a 50 and an 85, these are your prime lenses. Do a portrait of your child, your best friend, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend with the 50 and then with the 85 at the same distance, and compare them side by side in Lightroom. I guarantee you'll love that 85 a lot more.
Yeah, I love the 85. It's like a magic lens, especially when
really
you
is.
shoot.
It really is.
What aperture are you usually at when you're shooting at 85?
Oh, wow. People ask that question a lot as well. It depends. For example, yesterday's shoot, there were times when we were shooting at f/16 because we're using strobe. But then there were times yesterday when I'm shooting wide open with the 85, and I'm focused just on the eyes, and everything else falls out of focus. And that's quite beautiful as well. It looks like an old-fashioned painting almost, because everything is soft, but it's subliminal. The eyes are totally sharp, which is what I want to be in focus, and everything else goes slowly out of focus. The skin is softer. The ears are out of focus. It's just a beautiful, beautiful look. Awesome. So in terms of answering your question about where do I shoot, which f-stop, it depends on the subject and what I'm shooting. Because sometimes I'm shooting wide open, sometimes I'm shooting at 5/6, sometimes I'm shooting at f/16. It just depends on what I need to be in focus.
Yeah, I shoot it with 85. I will go down to 1.8 or 1.2. And for whatever reason, I mean, it's not appropriate for obviously for every situation, but the times where it is appropriate and I do go down, those are my favorite. I don't know.
Favorite photographs.
Yeah, speaking of that, favorite photographs. We have 2 images that you're going to walk us through, which you were alluding to this one earlier, the butterfly story. So why don't you tell us about this?
My butterfly story. That was a personal project, and I had gone to see an exhibit, and I actually didn't want to go to the show at all, but I went because my girlfriend wanted to go, so I had the obligation. So I go to the show, and you know what I'm talking about, right? So I go to this exhibit, and guys, you know what I'm talking about. We go to this exhibit, and I walk in, and I'm thinking the entire time, how long do I have to be here? When can I get out of here? And I walk into this one room, and it's this butterfly pavilion, and it's butterflies everywhere. And I was taken aback by the beauty of the colors and the shapes of the butterfly. So then she's trying to drag me out of there now. So I didn't want to leave. But I was inspired in that moment by the shape and color. So I got back and called my team, told them I had this idea, and started sketching out these ideas, and it all came together, and that's how that image came to life, based on me going to a show that I didn't want to go to.
It's beautiful. It's definitely one of my favorites, too.
Thank you.
And your second favorite shot's very different in composition.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Style.
I'm ready to hear the explanation on this one.
So this one is, which one image is again? Because my screen's not up.
Oh, this is the one with
it's
a
the
Thanksgiving dinner, it looks
Thanksgiving dinner. It's very appropriate for this time.
So this is perfect. This shot was taken last year this time. And the clients called me, wanted to have this picture of the family. Just wanted a family portrait. So I didn't want to do just a family portrait. So I was talking to them about my idea and concept. And on the phone, they just didn't get it. So I sketched out the idea. And they're like, well, how are you going to do this? I'm like, don't worry about how I'm going to do it. Let's do this. They're like, okay, if you think you can do it. I'm like, absolutely, I can do this. So we got together, and we went scouting for all the props and making the dinner and putting it all together, which made for a wonderful experience for the entire family. So we have all the props together, we dressed the table, and then I have the family change clothes 3 times. So I shot the shot of the husband and wife cutting the turkey first by themselves around an empty table with nobody around it. Then I had them change clothes, come back and sit on the left side, shot them again, and then had them change clothes a 3rd time and come on the right side. And we had this great time making this shot. And for kids, normally kids, you know, the mother and father are both actors, and so they can take direction and they know how to move and how to react. The kids are just kids. The kids had such a great time changing clothes and pretending that they were on the other side of the table and talking to themselves. And we had a fantastic time. I got a great shot, and it was different and out of the box.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's very cool. We lost Matthew due to his computer dying completely. But he's graciously, so it happens to even the best of photographers. We all lose our computers at times. But he's graciously offered to jump online via phone, hence the frozen picture behind us. So anyway, rapid fire questions. What investments should one make in lighting equipment / flashes when starting off with portrait photography?
Just getting one light to start. One simple light, be it an umbrella or a beauty dish, but just one simple light to start, and master that one light. Shoot it as many ways as possible, and just do what you can afford to do. Whatever kind of light it is, use one light. It can be a simple hot light, or it can be a strobe light, but make sure you just master that one light first.
Great. Okay, how important are personal projects? Short version, because I know you could go on for a while.
I could with that one. Extremely important. I think you must have a personal project, because that is what you shoot for you, not for a client, for you.
Awesome. And Ronnie, thanks for asking that. And then Anish asked the initial one. How did you start in this field, and how did you get known? From Luis.
Editorial is how you get known. Editorial, like shooting for magazines that don't pay a lot, but they have your images every month in the magazine, and everybody sees them. So editorial is how you get known. How did I get started? I started off first by working as a photo assistant. First, actually, an intern, then a photo assistant, and that's how I got in the business.
So that begs the question, going on editorial, how important is it to have an agent, and how do you find your agent?
It's not important in the very beginning. In the beginning, I think you should not have an agent. You need to learn how to do the business on your own first. Learn how to get clients on your own first, how to manage those clients. Then you get an agent when you have so much work, you need a partner to help you manage the work.
Great. And then how do you pick your agent?
Getting an agent's like being married to your mate. It's a process, and it takes time. And you have interviews, you go out, you have dinners, and you find the right marriage. It's a business relationship, and hopefully it will last for many years, but don't go into it haphazardly. Take your time and meet different agents, show your work, and they need to love your work, and you need to love working with them.
Great. And then your advice on lighting really dark-skinned women.
When your camera is metering, it's giving you a normal meter reading. It's not looking at skin tone, it's just giving you an average. So once you know that, you know you have to compensate for not only dark skin, but also very, very fair skin. That meter is giving you an average, and then you open up or close down accordingly depending on the person you're shooting. And that goes with very dark or very light again. You can't, meters don't think. The camera meter is not thinking. It's giving you an average. It's up to you to think about your subject and how you want to open up or close down to give the proper exposure for that person.
I'm going to have to play the bad guy. Maybe one more question?
Yes. So in Creative Live, which, by the way, if people want to see more Matthew Jordan Smith, they can always check on your Creative Live workshop where you're doing a live shoot, which is actually very cool. But you shot in JPEG. Is that typical, or is that just for that situation?
Just for that situation. I always shoot in RAW. But for the show, we had to shoot in JPEG just for the speed and be able to have it tethered and all that stuff. But I only shoot RAW.
Okay, and then sorry, you have to tell me what camera you use. Iyaz is getting mad at me. He's gonna start a fire.
I use the Sony A900. That's my camera that I love right now, and it's just a great camera. And then things are changing so fast, and I think everybody's coming out with new cameras next year. And when they come up with the brand new one, I'll probably be switching over again. But the last 3 years, I've been using the Sony A900.
All right, so I'm going to ask the last question. Matthew,
yay!
Where can people find you around the web? If they want to see your work, other than in magazines and everywhere else, if they want to go to the web, where could they find more about you?
On my website, which is MatthewJordansmith.com. Matthew with 2 T's, MatthewJordansmith.com. Matthew Jordan Smith.
And then also your online store on your blog. You've been so gracious to offer our viewers a discount for purchasing. So if you could explain how they could do that and where they need to go for that, that would be great.
They can go to gallery.matthewjordansmith.com. There you'll find all my instructional videos. You'll find fine art prints and my ebook there available for purchase. And if you put in the discount code TWiT, you will get 10% off of any purchase, be it the book, be it a high-end print, or be it any of the instructional videos at gallery.matthewjordansmith.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Oh, wait, one last viewer question. How do we get Halle Berry's number? Yeah, Steve Quinn added a little humor to our episode. And now before Iyaz kills us, we are going to wrap.
Yes, I will, and then I will kill everybody.
Yeah,
that's the
then
plan.
we'll burn the place down.
But Matthew, thank you so much. This is just an eye opener for me, and I checked out some of your work before and your interviews. Great stuff out there. So I was thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you for having me on as well, guys. I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. And next week there will be a Leo Laporte sitting here.
There will.
I hope. So that will be great.
Yeah.
Do you know who your guest is next week?
Yeah, next week we're going to have Dave Cross, and it's going to be a Photoshop session, and he's really going to be walking us through. It's going to be more of a how-to. So that'll be really good. And then we're also having a special host. Trey Radcliffe's going to be with us in the studio as well.
And you'll announce the winner next week.
And TWiT Photo Guest Quest winners will be announced next week, which I'm thrilled about. Thank you so much for everyone for entering. And then also for joining for the show. Thank you, Matthew. It was so great. Such an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
We need you to come back at some point.
I would love that. But
I certainly won't try to reach you on yourself.
Cool.
Anyway,
thank you guys.
See everybody next week.
All right. Thank you. And this is another episode of TWiT Photo, and we look forward to seeing you next week.